Tonight on a special edition of 7 News, damage and despair as Cyclone Alfred starts to inflict misery on millions of people. Officially, it's still 18 hours away, but up here, the pain has well and truly started.
Please stay safe. Be sensible.
We have extended coverage as New South Wales and Queensland brace for disaster. There's breaking news. A man washed into floodwaters near Coffs Harbour. We will have the very latest live. Also, high drama as thousands try to outrun the storm. The roads are a mess and servos are running dry.
I've got nothing. I'm nearly empty.
The North Coast at a standstill.
There's a lot happening in Sydney too, including a shark attack in the Shire, a woman badly hurt.
Chilling new details on a teenager's armed attack on a passenger jet.
And a rescued sailor arrived safely in Sydney into the arms of his wife after Alfred nearly killed him.
This is 7 News.
Good evening. Cyclone Alfred is lashing the coast tonight and causing blackouts as it bears down on Brisbane and our state's north. But there is some encouraging news right now.
While it will still be dangerous and damaging with flash flooding and high winds, the cyclone is expected to weaken when it makes landfall. Angela Cox in Byron Bay, you have the latest timing on when that will be.
I do, Chris. Forecasters now saying Alfred will come ashore around 11 a.m. tomorrow, most likely just north of Brisbane, and softening to a Category 1, which still packs wind gusts of over 100 kilometres an hour and huge amounts of rain. Tonight, our team of reporters is across every development. I've been on the ground here to see the damage firsthand. It is something beyond any storm, a tropical cyclone now knocking at the door.
Definitely feels like a cyclone's coming now.
The weather up here
Definitely got windier.
and definitely got wetter.
We're completely flooded up to our ankles.
It's also got wilder. Out there, you can see it, and up here, you can hear it. Make no mistake, Alfred is arriving and is doing awful damage. This from the back blocks. And have a look here, a family home as good as gone. By the beach, no better.
Wow.
And in the water, all bad. But there is panic too. Long lines for groceries. Catch them while you can. Ditto for fuel, in case tanks run dry. The army's arrived for this war on the weather as everyone pitches in, from the Queensland Premier.
Some of the images that you've seen have made you proud to be a Queenslander.
But some haven't. This man accused of pinching a private generator as 80,000 homes are tonight in the dark.
A quick update, power lost to Currumbin Valley.
We've got hundreds of lines down across the network.
Repair crews did try, but
it was just too much. It was unsafe.
that's full. Whoa. At the National Situation Room,
Thanks for your work.
the Prime Minister got an Alfred update. It wasn't good.
This is a serious event. We absolutely need to prepare for the worst. Please stay safe.
But tonight, a lucky break.
As the cyclone moves across Moreton Bay Islands, it is expected to weaken from a Category 2 to a Category 1 system. This will mean that destructive winds are unlikely for Brisbane itself.
On the Gold Coast, the canine crowd was back.
This isn't a time for sightseeing.
From the air, Brisbane is eerie and empty. Shops shut. Freeways free. The airport clear. Trains still. Then, on the ground, Alfred eating up the coast as this cyclone makes its mark. Over the border in New South Wales, flood rescues already. Volunteers doing what volunteers do.
Ran towards danger to help keep communities safe.
As residents watch and act.
Literally thousands of people were asked to leave their home. That has happened.
But in Lismore, there is tension too.
There is so much stress and anxiety. I've got to spray this morning from someone saying you should have done bloody more.
The flooding's already started. The roads are cut at times. The wind is so strong you can barely stand up. And Cyclone Alfred is still hours away from unleashing its full fury. At Byron Bay, a pub with no cheer after a tree came down. The beachfront here is battered too.
Very nervous, like even the Category 1 makes us nervous type thing. Category 2 is scary as hell.
To breaking news now on Cyclone Alfred, and a man has vanished in floodwaters in the state's north. Live now to Bill Hogan in Lismore. Bill, the man has disappeared just south of where you are.
Yeah, good evening, Ange. Well, the man was in a four-wheel drive when he was swept off a bridge near Dorrigo, about 200 kilometres south from where I am. He managed to climb out of the car and hold onto a tree, and he was speaking with police when suddenly he was vanished into the water, and tragically he has not been seen since about 3 o'clock this afternoon. It is shocking news as communities right along the coast braced for the worst. Alfred is still at sea and Lismore is already being swamped.
And as you can see, we're not even close to being at ground zero yet, and it's already pretty bad.
The great flood survivor ready for another battle.
I think particularly if the people of Lismore, for example, have been knocked down, they get up, they get knocked down, they get up, and now they have this.
At Lismore's Dark Horse Espresso, a final dash.
Going down.
The last business to clear from the CBD, loading the entire cafe into a horse float.
The design of the shop has always been that it's going to flood again.
In South Lismore, no time to rest, as flood-prone homes are cleared again, getting ready to move lives to higher ground.
We're not going to leave until the river is up.
How do you feel about this one?
I don't know because I haven't been through a cyclone.
Lismore University campus has now been turned into an evacuation centre, and not just for people.
Puppy pads, blankets, kitty litter.
But critics say the government is moving slower than Alfred.
For example, in the Byron evacuation centre at the Cavern Bar Centre, no sleeping materials, no stretchers.
But reinforcements are on the way. The Defence Force soon with boots on the ground. The SES already out in force. So far there have been more than 6,000 calls for help as they race against time.
The weather will deteriorate over the next few hours and then it may be too late to leave.
Water rescue strike teams are on the way to Bellingen, Lismore, Coffs Harbour, Taree and Port Macquarie. They are also bringing extra mobile phone coverage with drones for searches and drop-offs. At Ballina, the lights are off and almost nobody's home. The streets deserted and sandbagged. Those not evacuating are preparing for a long lockdown.
We're just out with the dog trying to get the last bits of not rain so the dog doesn't go insane in the house.
As the Wilsons River continues to rise, the Bureau predicts that by this evening it may exceed the major flood level of 9.7 metres. That will see low-lying areas of Lismore inundated. The concern then will be if it reaches the levee height of 10.5 metres. That will see the CBD inundated. But as Alfred continues to bring more and more rain, the last thing these residents want to see is the flood level of February 2022. And from the cyclone zone tonight, a plea for all Australians to roll up our sleeves.
You can give us your thoughts and prayers, but we need something practical from you, and that is blood.
Bill Hogan, 7 News.
And we have more breaking news now. Residents on the Gold Coast have just been warned to shelter in place hours out from the cyclone's arrival. Annie Puller joins us live. Annie, how treacherous are the conditions there now?
Well, Ange, it's starting to feel very real. As you just mentioned, an emergency alert has been issued for parts of the Gold Coast, with residents right now being urged to take shelter in a safe area of their home and stay off the roads. But as you can see, despite these warnings, large crowds are still gathering here at Main Beach. Police have been trying to move people on, but the message really just isn't cutting through for some. As this weather intensifies, it will not only put beaches here to the test, but high-rises too. 70 floors up on Australia's tallest building, and the astonishing force accompanying Alfred's approach is hard to escape. You can really hear it howling, can't you?
Yes.
This is how Nav and Taruna Gupta are riding out Alfred.
Everything inside the unit was shaking. The sound was deafening.
Gale force winds sweeping through at breathtaking speeds.
It was blowing me off my feet. You can't stand in the street when it's like this.
The Gold Coast's famous beaches have not been spared of nature's fury either.
It's a bit crazy.
It's a cliff drop, isn't it?
Yeah, crazy, yeah. People have been falling down.
Here, the life-saving towers are centimetres away from collapse. Gold Coast beaches are prone to erosion, but it is rare to see damage like this happen so quickly. The real concern for authorities, tourists essentially teetering on the edge of this cliff face with no comprehension of how unstable this ground is. The menacing storm has been making an arrival in explosive bursts, and the higher the home, the more the wind whistles. The first bout hammered into the city overnight.
Power lost to Currumbin Valley.
Lights out too at Lily and Maddie's home.
So we're really prepared. We found a perfect spot.
With games, snacks and torches, they're hunkering down in the safest part of their home.
It's pretty much the only spot in our house with no windows and doors. It's pretty cozy.
Power is already out for tens of thousands of properties, but it's become too dangerous to send help.
The crews will start work just as soon as they possibly can.
And a warning as night falls again.
It's time to be safe at home.
It's really scary. I'm from Sydney, so I've never seen a cyclone. I've never been in a cyclone.
Alfred may only be a Category 2, but its wrath could be second to none. Annie Puller, 7 News.
So we know the eye of the cyclone is tracking towards hitting the Queensland coast due at around lunchtime tomorrow. Garth Burley is on Bribie Island just north of Brisbane, which is right in the path of Alfred's predicted landfall. Garth, what's happening there in these crucial final hours?
Yeah, good evening to you, Ange. The Weather Bureau is predicting that Alfred will first cross the Moreton Bay Islands, the closest of which is 30 kilometres southeast of here, in the early hours of the morning. But that tracking is changing by the hour, and the weather here is changing by the minute. 5 minutes ago it was sunny. Now those winds have really picked up in unpredictability that no doubt only comes with a cyclone. Residents here on Bribie Island have been sandbagging their homes, fearful of a storm surge ahead of a high tide tomorrow morning around 5 a.m. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
If it goes over 1.5, we've got problems. Yeah, we've got water through the house.
It must be concerning, and knowing that its potential path could be hitting the Moreton Islands and potentially this region as well.
There's a lot of very nervous people on the island.
Residents here have been monitoring Alfred for days, unsure of what impact or initial impact he will have. Within 24 hours, it's likely they will have their answer.
Okay, thank you, Garth. A Lithuanian rower rescued by the Australian Navy hundreds of kilometres out to sea has returned to shore with first-hand experience of Cyclone Alfred's brutal power. The 44-year-old embraced his wife for the first time since October today after escaping his version of hell.
Here's a man who looked Tropical Cyclone Alfred in the eye and lived to hug his wife.
It's a big day for me.
Lithuanian Man Mountain Ulrimus Mokkus set out in October to row from San Diego to Brisbane, a 12,000 kilometre paddle to raise awareness for the war in Ukraine. With 740 kilometres left, along came the storm. Hell, he told media, is not hot.
It's actually wet and blow very strong wind.
16-metre waves capsized his boat, he says, 30 times.
Yeah, it's like cat in washing machine.
With no sun, his solar-powered communications were cut off. He triggered an SOS beacon last Thursday, never forgetting the pledge he made to his family to stay alive.
I keep the promise.
After 4 days at nature's mercy, a maritime safety plane sighted him.
It's no small task
finding an object that's small in the middle of our oceans.
The Australian Navy did the rest. Ulramus had the presence of mind to take gifts for his saviours from his waterlogged boat.
The first responsibility of all mariners is to the safety of other mariners, especially those who are in distress at sea.
Ulramus' original goal was to actually get to Sydney, just not on HMAS Tulis, which, by the way, was not immune to the treacherous conditions. The crew ran out of seasick tablets.
And the ship's company's going to have a very good weekend, catching up on some sleep that wasn't possible.
A second attempt at the row, somehow not out of the question.
Not yet.
Cannot just keep him like closet at house. No, it's impossible.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
Jodie Lee is at Qantas headquarters for us tonight. Jodie, the airlines are dealing with thousands of stranded passengers.
Exactly right, Ange. Well, this is the Qantas engine room. Here, more than 400 people are working right around the clock to manage every flight across the country, including those that have been suspended as a result of Tropical Cyclone Alfred. So far, it's really those flights in and out of Brisbane, the Gold Coast and Ballina. 400 of them so far suspended, and I'm told it'll be the case until at least Sunday morning at the earliest. Here at least there is a meteorologist on hand. They are monitoring the conditions minute by minute. Any passenger that was due to travel is advised to check the website and the app, but Qantas insists that every passenger will be reaccommodated on another flight as soon as Alfred passes. Fueling fear. Service stations across the Northern Rivers slam shut, leaving this ambulance in a different type of emergency. And this long-haul semi out of luck. Countless anxious drivers trying to flee Alfred, but left with no escape.
I got nothing. I'm nearly empty. Well, if I don't get petrol, I'm stuck here.
It's made the decision to leave all the more difficult for residents of the state's north. But those who stay face the real risk of days without power and the possibility of being entirely cut off.
We went for a drive and just had a little suss what's going on, and roads are pretty shocking. Trees falling down everywhere, roads blocked off.
Even before Tropical Cyclone Alfred strikes, the M1 between Tweed Heads and Byron Bay has closed.
With those evacuation orders, the advice very clearly from the SES is to stay off the roads unless you have to travel.
Some drivers have been caught in limbo. Travelling around Australia, Clive and his dog were making their way north on the road home to WA.
I've just been from here up to Byron Bay and had to go through sort of 2 feet of floodwaters to get back here.
They'll now have to spend the next few nights at this Ballina truck stop.
I'm not worried about him. I've got plenty of food for him, but the next couple of days could be a bit of a problem for me.
They're not alone. The travel centre quickly emerging as the best option for so many left stranded by Alfred.
Just for a couple of days, when it dies down, I'll just keep going. No trees, nothing to blow on me, so pretty easy.
Jodie Lee, 7 News.
Angie and Chris, the wind's really picked up even while we've been on air. If you can believe it, I've still spotted 2 surfers out in that angry sea. I will have more updates in about 10 minutes from here in the State South.
All right, we'll talk to you then. Thank you, Ange. Now, as Alfred approaches and threatens destruction, it's also causing an entirely different kind of storm in Canberra.
If the Prime Minister had plans to hold an election in April, they're slipping fast. His sights instead locked on that imminent disaster.
Usually Prime Ministers call elections. This time, Alfred's handling it.
When nature does its worst, Australians are at our best.
The Albanese government has paused announcements and political attacks. For now, it's all about the peril of Cyclone Alfred.
My government is razor focused.
And yet the slowing storm, the wild early winds and expected flooding are about to swamp the last hours in which Prime Minister Albanese can call the widely favoured April 12 federal election. Either the emergency is over by Monday or the election is off until May.
All the planning now would be around a later election date.
In 40 years working on Australian elections, consultant Bruce Hawker says he's never seen a wild card toy with an election date quite like Alfred.
I think this is a unique moment in my memory.
It wouldn't be appropriate for the Prime Minister to call the election this weekend.
The opposition hosing down criticism of leader Peter Dutton for leaving his Brisbane electorate to attend a Sydney fundraiser.
No one can doubt Peter Dutton's commitment to his electorate.
In politics, now is the time to cool it. Tonight, the chances of an April election are slipping fast, though my understanding is Prime Minister Albanese is yet to flatly rule it out. Tim Lester, 7 News.
It is time to check the local weather now with Amber Laidler. Amber, there was at least plenty of sunshine in Sydney today.
Yes, Angie, Chris, good evening. We did see a few showers across some of the suburbs since 9 a.m, mostly away from the coast. Those falls generally light. The most was around 6 millimetres recorded at Warrenora Dam, but most parts enjoyed generally clear skies. Otherwise, temperatures a touch above average across the Sydney Basin too. But obviously, significant rainfall totals have been recorded across the state's northeast. More than 100 millimetres has been recorded at Bellingen, just inland of Coffs Harbour since 9 a.m, with nearby totals exceeding 200 millimetres over the past 24 hours. With Alfred due to send heavy falls down to Sydney early next week. Your detailed outlook and your latest weekend forecast coming up soon.
Amber, thank you. A shark attack in Sydney's south. After the break, a paddleboarder flown to hospital. What locals saw.
Fresh trouble for Alan Jones. Details of the latest charge.
A stolen car wipeout in Beverly Hills. Teenagers arrested.
A fake bomb and a hero shearer. Wild new details about the Jetstar emergency.
And how residents are handling the cyclone threat. More from the danger zones coming up.